Back to the Sound of Science. This is Amy Myers. This video is going to be super short, and it's just going to be talking about energy and a couple of important reactions that you need to know. These are reactions like cellular respiration and photosynthesis that you really need to have memorized. So we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about how energy is handled in living things. And then hopefully, like I said, nice short video. And by the end of it, this will all make sense. Okay, so let's start by comparing photosynthesis and cellular respiration. This diagram really is sort of a simplistic view of it. It's actually a lot more complicated than this, but just to give you an overview. The chloroplast is going to be filled up with this pigment called chlorophyll. So the chloroplast is filled with chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is that green pigment that we think of that makes plants green. This is how they're able to absorb light energy from the sun and use it to break apart carbon dioxide and water, producing glucose and then the byproduct oxygen. So after that glucose and oxygen is produced, it can be used by the mitochondria to create energy in the form of ATP, and then it releases as waste products carbon dioxide and water. These two reactions are tied to one another, being those opposite reactions. And it truly is one of the most important cycles that we'll talk about. This is actually the carbon oxygen cycle. So we'll talk about that as the semester moves forward, but it's important to understand this relationship that these two have together. Okay, so here are the reactions. And like I said, memorize these. Photosynthesis taking place in the chloroplast is 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, which is going to create C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Okay, that's a lot. The 6 CO2, that's carbon dioxide. That's what we breathe out. The 6 H2O, you guys know what H2O is. That's just water. So 6 carbon dioxides and 6 waters. This is going to create this C6H12O6. The last video, I talked about how carbohydrates always appear in that 1 to 2 to 1 ratio of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So what we're seeing here is actually a carbohydrate. In this case, this is glucose. So you know it's a carb, you know it's a sugar. Glucose is that 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens. And then 6 pairs of oxygen, because, oxygen likes to hang out with a friend, 6 pairs of oxygen left over, 6O2. If we look at cellular respiration in the mitochondria, what we're going to find is the same process in reverse. A glucose plus 6 oxygen pairs is going to create carbon dioxide and water. So let's put this in perspective. Let's look at it like the carbon-oxygen cycle. So a plant is going to take in carbon dioxide and water. It's going to break them apart, almost like they're Legos. I want you guys to think of molecules like Legos. You have your molecules, you can break them apart, and you can build something new from them because they're still Lego bricks. They can fit together. And that's really what we're doing. In photosynthesis, we're going to take apart the carbon dioxides, we're going to take apart these waters, and we're going to build something new. We're going to build a single glucose molecule, but then we're going to have a whole bunch of little oxygens left over. In fact, 12 of them. So there's sort of a waste product from this. We're not really using it, but it's important that we have it because eventually we're going to need it. Then in the mitochondria, we start doing cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is going to take that glucose, which we're usually going to get from consuming it, and it's going to take oxygen. So think about it for a second. Where do we get our oxygen from? That's right. We breathe it in. So we breathe in the oxygen, we consume the glucose, and just like those Lego bricks from the first example, we're going to take them apart and we're going to use them to create a molecule called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. This is a molecule that stores energy. From there, we have a whole bunch of carbon dioxide and waters left over. So we're actually going to release those back out into the environment so they can be taken up by another plant, and eventually the process can continue. The molecule that I'm showing you here is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And if you look at the picture on the left, the one that shows the full battery, this ATP molecule, you can see the adenosine, you see its ribose, which is like a type of sugar, and then you see 3 little phosphates. That last phosphate bond holds a ton of energy. And so if we need energy, our cells literally just take that ATP and they break that last bond. And when they break that bond apart, it releases energy that we can use. Our cells can use it, our bodies can use it, and it's really important. And then that leaves the ADP, or adenosine diphosphate. See, di, 2 phosphates, tri, 3 phosphates. The adenosine diphosphate is left so that another phosphate can be attached. Think of this like a glow stick. If you take a glow stick and you break it, it's going to start glowing, right? It's going to release that energy as light energy. In the case of ATP, when we break that last bond, it's going to release that energy into a form that we can use. So that's why our body spent so much time in cellular respiration making ATP, so that we can use it in order to function, in order for our body to do what it's supposed to do. Okay. All of this, cellular respiration, photosynthesis, all of this is a really, really elegant and incredibly complex process. And I am not going into any level of detail with these. We've got things like photosystem 1, photosystem 2, Krebs cycle. We have so many other things that we could talk about with this. This is just a basic overview of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So memorize those equations, make sure that you sort of understand what's going on, and I look forward to seeing you next time.